Hi, welcome back to Steel City Screams. I am Ashley Ray,
I'm Bryn, am I?
and today, what are we doing today, Bryn?
Well, we're going to discuss some pretty great movies, and we're discussing two today, and that's going to be X and Pearl.
Yeah, so I think we're going to start out with X, which I was a little, what's the word? Uh, I wasn't too sure going into this movie how I was how I was going to like it or not because I saw like it was called X and I knew it was going to be about like a lot of sex and pornography, and sometimes I think films, they try to add it and they go too far with it that it takes away from the plot, if that makes sense, and
Mm-hmm.
takes away from the story. So I was kind of like, ugh, I don't know, but I was like, of course I still have to see it. And I think I was pleasantly surprised with how it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Mia from I think I'm going to pronounce this movie right, but Suspiria.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, okay, I haven't seen her in a minute." And you know, I love after seeing these two, I was like, "Oh my God, I love Mia Goth."
I'm wearing my
She
oh my
Mia
goth
Goth.
in honor of her. Has nothing to do with her, but I thought it was fitting for today.
And but yeah, I mean, I love that she loves just like, I don't know, I guess the best way to phrase it, she loves getting weird and
Mhm.
just stepping outside of the box
Yeah, she's
and
really good at it
taking,
too.
yeah, and taking those risks. Because there's a lot of things like watching the movie, I was like, oh my God, it's so good. I love it. But I don't know if I can do half the stuff that she did in the movie
Right,
myself
right.
at
Yeah.
this very moment in present day. Um, so I give actors a lot of credit when they have to do, a sex scene and have nudity, because that takes a lot. And I know nowadays, we have like the intimacy coordinators on sets and they're more closed sets. So only like certain crew members are there and all that stuff. It's not like everybody's in front of you kind of thing. So it feels like it could be more of a comfortable space and a
Right, yeah.
much more safe space because there's not a bunch of people just around just to be around. But
Mhm.
it's still like it seems like it would be nerve-wracking. So I give that whole cast a lot of friggin' credit because I've also never seen Brittany Snow do a role like this before.
Same. I
So
was I was surprised.
I
Yeah.
was like, okay, girl.
Definitely surprised because I don't know, her characters have never real well, at least the other films I've seen have
Yeah.
never really been like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was just kind of shocked. And but I think that they did it very like tastefully, and
Absolutely.
you can definitely tell that it was a safe space because I've heard like horror stories about sets where it's like every single crew member who doesn't need to be there is in the room watching, or there's no intimacy coordinator. And I think that that is so important if you're going to do a film like that. But
Absolutely.
I think, now in 2023, hopefully everybody is choosing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think it's definitely happening more often. So that way everybody does feel comfortable and everybody does feel safe. And I just think that's really important to have on a set, anyways, like
Hmm.
to feel comfortable and to feel safe around the people that you're working around. Um, and like when I really start making my own films, that's going to be very key for me is to make sure everybody feels taken care of, everybody feels safe, everybody feels comfortable. And if anybody tries any bullshit, they're off my set.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna, keep somebody because they're good at what they do. Like if you make somebody uncomfortable, you're gone.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. And it's not fair for
Yeah.
everybody. It's just
Hmm.
not.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are very important things for me. So it seems like, hearing interviews and whatnot, everybody seemed, pretty great on set. Everybody seemed pretty comfortable with
Yeah.
the whole filming process and whatnot. And gosh, brain fart. Here we go, guys. But I mean, I would say too, you know, if Mia went back to film Pearl like right after that, because I, at least from what I remember hearing in an interview or reading, she got asked by Ty West to make the prequel for Pearl. And it was like an immediate turnaround where she just extended her time filming in New Zealand. And, you know, Ty and her both wrote the script, which I also find to be very amazing that she had her input for that script. And, you know, I enjoyed Pearl too, but we'll get into that after we finish with X. But, you know, I love that she was able to do that
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
So,
Yeah, so and since we're going to be talking about both films, just a little spoiler warning.
warning now.
Yeah, just so
This
you
is
know.
the warning you're getting. But I mean, I don't know who wouldn't have seen them by now. They've been out for a while, but granted, I did that with Host. So, sorry.
God bless you. How dare you?
I'm sorry. It's allergy season. Let me live. I feel so exhausted today and congested, and I'm a mess.
That
But it's
sneeze,
fine.
that was powerful.
I swear every time I sneeze, it's like a damn train's rolling through. They're so aggressive and loud.
I love that.
Here we are though. Okay.
So let's talk
So,
about X. So, I I believe so. I think you know a little more about this. Was Bryn's pick. X and Pearl was Bryn's pick. So, which I did see both, and I believe it starts at where the police find all these dead bodies at this
mhm.
farm. So I think that's like supposed to be like 24 hours earlier or something like that. And then we kind
No,
of
because it would have been 24 hours later, but it
Oh,
goes
I'm sorry.
back
Yes,
to
I'm
24
sorry.
hours
I'm sorry.
earlier.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
just triggered in my brain too. Like as you were talking, I was like, wait a second, hold on. Yeah, no, it's pretty much like after. Then though, you are right to where it does go 24 hours before that
Yes,
all
yeah.
goes down. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we meet Maxine, Mia's character, and then her boyfriend Wayne, actors Bobby Lynn, Jackson, and then the camera crew RJ and Lorraine.
Hmm.
And they're all played by some really good actors. We talked about Bobby Lynn, who was Brittany Snow, Jackson, who's played by Kid Cudi.
I love his music.
We are Kid
I
Cudi fans over here.
Well, and see, it's funny too, because I didn't realize that was him. Don't ask me how I didn't realize it. Like I looked up the cast before. It's not like it's not on the internet, but I still like didn't realize that was him. So I was like, oh shit. Okay. Um,
Well,
yeah.
when I was watching the film, I was like, man, he looks so familiar. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked it up and the name, it's his real name. So I was like, I didn't recognize this name. And then I clicked like on the Wikipedia and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Kid
Kid
Cudi.
Cudi.
And then we also have Jenna Ortega,
Mm-hmm. It was
who,
very interesting to see her in this movie.
yes, I was
Very
surprised.
interesting.
Yeah. And I liked her character.
Me too.
Um, but anyway, this group, they're all going to film a pornographic movie at this farm, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, so the farm is owned by Howard, the old man, and then Pearl, the old lady. And I'm trying to think, and maybe you can remember how they kind of get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, when we get into the opening, like Ashley said, we see all these dead bodies, and then it goes to 24 hours earlier, introduction of Maxine and Wayne, and Maxine's looking in the mirror and she's like, you're a fucking sex symbol, hyping herself up because she knows she's a bad bitch. And so then they start filming the movie as they're driving to this farm in Texas. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I remember the one part that RJ's filming Jackson, and Bobby Lynn's like, if you aim it the right way, oh god, how she says something like it'll look like his penis or something like that. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is too fucking hilarious. But yeah, I mean, like I said too before, seeing Brittany Snow in that character, because I'm personally used to seeing her as like a final girl, like she wasn't
Yeah, like
she
the good
wasn't Would You
girl.
Rather, but like the good girl or in the comedies.
Yeah,
So that was kudos to her because she did amazing,
she did.
but
Yeah.
and she was hilarious in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different aspects. But there's like those little lines that she says, and I was just cracking up. I was like,
Your
okay,
accent
Brittany.
was very
Um,
good, by the way.
her accent was really good.
No,
She had
yours
that.
was really good.
Oh, thanks. I got that southern drawl.
I
Um,
like that accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Pittsburgh. I ain't from the South. Um, but yeah, hers was really good too, though. I mean, I'm not perfect at accents. I have to. I've always wanted to take a class.
I love doing
That's
accents.
that's a separate conversation though.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so I mean they go to the gas station, they get some stuff for like dinner and all that kind of stuff, and they start filming little things. Hilarious. And Jenna Ortega's character, she's very quiet and like very, oh, I love Jesus. This is like sinning for me.
Yeah.
And so, but like she had this innocence to her, which in a sense was comedic itself because she's with her boyfriend filming a porn
Yeah. Yeah.
with these people. And
Yeah.
she's like, this the
I
whole time.
I
Well, not the whole
feel
time, but like for like good first half of the movie.
I feel like I related to her character the most because I feel like that would be me in that situation where I just like, okay,
I
okay,
get that.
guys.
And see, same. Same. But then like there was some like quirks from Bobby Lynn and quirks from Maxine where I'm like, okay, I'm like a mix. Like, what's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you can kind of relate to like all of them in like different ways, which was really cool. And but yeah, so to jump forward a little bit, they get to the farm and Wayne, Maxine's boyfriend, who also is like he like owns the studio or and makes these movies a lot and whatnot. So he goes up to the front door and knocks, and then we get introduced to the old man, Howard, and he's pointing a gun at him, and Maxine's like, oh, like there's something wrong. And see, now I'm gonna keep talking in a southern
There's something
accent, damn
wrong
it.
here.
And
I
so
don't
like
like the looks of this.
I don't like the looks of this at all. And but he's like, whoa, like we talked on the phone, like it's okay. So basically, to answer what you asked, because you couldn't remember right off the bat. So he saw like an ad in the paper to like rent out the, little like guest house on the farmland.
Right,
And
okay. Yeah.
then he called him on the phone, spoke to him, they made a deal. But
But yep, here's it.
they didn't Wayne didn't tell Howard that they were going to be filming a porno.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
and
remember that.
they get into the house after grabbing all their stuff. And then Howard leaves the guest house. Well, and also might I add, he was checking out Maxine. And so Wayne was like, "Oh, like, why are you looking at my girl?" Like, no. And well, I don't think he really meant it that way, because it seemed like he was like, "Oh, like, you like what you're looking at? Like, this is my girl though," kind of thing. Um, so trigger brain. Goodness gracious. Oh, okay. So
It's
Howard leaves the guest house, and I think it's Lorraine that asks, like, does he know what we're doing here? And he's like, no, and he doesn't need to find out, because we're
yeah.
going to be doing our thing, not bothering them. Like, it's not a big deal. And so, yeah, so she's semi against it, but she's still, helping her boyfriend out and doing the job kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, like she's like
Um,
uncomfortable, but she's doing her job.
yeah, but it's funny because she starts to kind of like it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, they did some filming during the day and whatever.
Yeah, with
And
Bobby, Lynn, and Jackson, I think.
yeah, that's the first scene that they get to. So fucking funny, dude. I can't. And so so they're filming and she's holding the boom or whatever, but like you can see in her face, she's like watching them do their thing. And she's like, it's like she's thinking, like you can see it in her face. She's thinking, she's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh. And I'm like, girl, what the hell?
Yeah,
It's so like I feel like it's comedic without trying to be comedic.
for sure. Yeah.
For
And
sure.
and then I think that's when Maxine she wanders off and goes to relax in the pond
Yeah.
with
She goes for a little
the
swim, little
yeah.
skinny dipping before she has to
Yes.
film, cool herself down.
Yeah, and I think well, I don't think she notices if I remember correctly, but there's a what is it, a crocodile or an alligator?
Yeah, yeah. So before it gets her, she gets out of the water.
Yeah.
And then she makes her way back like towards the house, but then she sees old woman Pearl standing in the window. No, she wasn't in the window. She was outside and she was like telling her to come over. And I was
Hmm.
like, I would not do that, but okay. I mean, go get you some lemonade, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what happens. She goes over, she gives her lemonade. She's kind of quiet at first. And then she like, she finishes her drink and she's like, well, like I should head back. And she goes to leave. And if I remember this sequence correctly, she like sees the picture of young Pearl and it looks exactly like Maxine. And so she's like a little like, this is weird. I don't like it. But then Pearl like tells her to look in the mirror and tells her like, like you're very beautiful as she is. But where it gets weird is she touches like her side, her exposed side.
Sorry, my cat is joining me.
Hi, Kitty.
He's joining us. Yeah, so it's like Pearl starts making like sexual advances towards Maxine.
Yeah, which was like, whoa, okay, this is kind of out of the blue, out of nowhere. She's never even spoken to Pearl before. So that's when she was like, oh, like, what are you doing? And then Howard's coming back from a trip of sorts, like from the store or whatever. And she's like, go out the back door. This will be our little secret. And I was like, oh, goodness gracious. So something's happening between the husband, Howard, and Pearl, because otherwise, this woman would not be like, it's our little secret.
She's
There's no
crazy.
secrets to tell though either, miss, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Maxine gets out of the house, heads back down to the house, and Wayne's like, oh, like, where were you at? Like, we're ready to go. Like, you need to get ready and let's do this. So then, Howard did notice the 2 cups on the table.
Mhm.
That's I can't remember if they had a conversation then or not. I think Pearl just honestly went upstairs to, go pretty herself up for her husband. And then Maxine went to get ready to go film her scene with Jackson. And
Yeah,
um,
and so Maxine and Jackson start to film and Pearl goes upstairs and the group can't see it, but Pearl is watching them as they are filming the scene.
well, because she comes out to the barn
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looks in the window, and I was like, dear God, what is going on? And
Yeah.
so clearly by this point, you can tell that Pearl is extremely sex deprived. And then,
Yes.
you find out that Howard can't really have sex with her because he has heart issues.
Yeah,
And then you're like,
tells her
oh,
his
you kind
heart
of
is too
feel
weak.
right. And you're like, oh, I kind of feel bad, but she's still kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because all she wants is to feel loved.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like her way of like feeling loved again. In a way, it seems to be. But I was just like, what is going on? Like, there's just like, it's a lot of weirdness.
It
And
is. It's a lot.
so, they finish filming for the day. And, they go back and they're eating their sandwiches and drinking some beers in the, little guest house. And Lorraine was just like, I will say, like, I really enjoyed what I saw today. And I was like, what is she about to do?
You say,
Something's
uh-oh,
something.
Lorraine.
Lorraine's getting a little bit wild right now. And she's like, well, I want to be in the movie. And her boyfriend's like, no.
He's like, absolutely not. No way.
And it's funny because towards the beginning of the movie, you hear RJ call her a prude.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when Lorraine's like, no, like I really want to do this. And see, I don't know why I feel the need to talk into
I
that southern
really
accent
want
now.
to do this.
And basically it just ends up with her being like, oh, well, when did you become such a prude? And I was like,
Well, that's how everybody who was sitting there was too. They're like, ooh.
Yeah, like everybody was, shocked because of course when it started out, Maxine was like, she's weird and quiet and like she doesn't talk. She seems very judgy.
Yeah.
And now she's like, I have an appreciation for what you're doing. And you know what? I would like to do a scene too. And then we're all like, okay. And Jenna is like a little bit younger than us. So I was like,
Yeah.
I wonder how they're going to film this.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
also like, oh my goodness. But like again, kudos to her. I couldn't. I think she was only 18 when they did X. So I was like, damn. And they didn't show much for her either, because I'm sure, she has her own boundaries with that and stuff in
Yeah.
her contract. But
Mhm.
still, that takes a lot at such a young age to do
And
that, you know?
yeah, and it's a film where, I mean, obviously she's a big name, but it's like one of her, I feel like some people may have judged her for being in this movie.
Which is
And
bullshit.
I think so. It was kind of like and I could be very wrong about this, but it might have been like an interesting step in her career where people were kind of like, "Oh, I can't believe she would do something like that," and then other people were like, "This is awesome." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And oh, damn it. Something triggered in my brain when you were saying that, and I just lost it. I need
I'm sorry.
and it's okay, darling. Um, oh, when I was basically just saying like it's bullshit that people are, you know, judging her for doing that. It's her choice, it's her career. And I feel like nobody, I mean, you're always gonna have haters, blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
to me, I don't understand why people feel the need to go out of their way to go on social media and type shit like that. It's none of your business what her choices are, what her contracts say, the jobs she chooses to take or not to take. She's working and she's killing it.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I thought she did amazing in X, and that was right before she did Scream.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
after she did X, that's when she was doing Scream, Wednesday. Like,
Mhm.
she's been working nonstop since she did X. X opened a lot of doors for her. And
Yeah, for
again,
sure.
like I said, I'm sure she had certain things in her contract that she put, or her agent or whoever put, that was like, she's comfortable doing this, but she's not doing like full nudity. And
Mhm.
granted, she's just 18, I'm pretty positive, when
Yeah.
she filmed this. So it's not like she's a kid anymore.
Mhm.
She's an adult now,
Yeah.
and she has the right to make those choices on what she wants to do in movies. Um, She's not, yeah, I just feel like another emphasis is she's not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, here's what I was going to say. I feel like, when you watch some of these actors come out of Disney, for example, because Jenna did work on Disney for a little while, or, then you look at Miley Cyrus or Demi Lovato and like what they choose to do with their life, but they're living their best lives and they're happy. Um, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, like she's crazy. Oh my god, she used to be on Disney and blah, blah." She's not in Disney anymore. They're
Yeah.
grown ass women. Like, what is so hard to understand about that? That's like watching Vanessa Hudgens in Spring Breakers, I think was the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, I don't understand why people are like that. That needs to change. Stop doing it. Okay. We should be bringing women up, not dragging them down. Let's emphasize that now and move on. um,
Words
yeah,
from Bryn. Wise words from Bryn.
yeah, I'll fight you. Um, Not literally. Um, but yeah, so we see Wayne take RJ outside, and he's like, "No, like I don't want to let her do this." And he's like, "Well, it's my movie. She has a choice, and so do I. If she wants to do it, then she's going to do it. You're not going to stop her."
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, amen. Wayne gets it. And when a woman's going to do something and they set their mind to it, they're going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So let them do it.
That's
And,
true.
you know, and so, then we see RJ come in the room, his camera's handed to him. I think Maxine and Bobby Lynn both were helping like with her makeup and everything.
Mhm.
And then she was already pretty much completely undressed. And then right before they started filming, they like removed her bra or whatever. And then they started filming, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't even show like a whole ordeal like they did with Bobby
No.
Lynn
Mhm.
and Maxine, which is why I said too, like, I'm pretty sure she had certain things in her contract that, were like, okay, this is how it's going to be filmed and what she's comfortable with. And then right after that, we sorry, RJ is in the shower
He's
crying like
devastated.
a baby.
He was
Okay, listen,
devastated.
I completely understand his devastation. I do. But she's a grown ass woman. And that's like, Wayne watches Maxine do it. I mean, I don't know. It's like, the first time I watched it, I was like, he's crying like a little baby. Get over it. And then I rewatched it with my friend, well, my roommate, and like I understand why he's
Yeah,
crying
sure.
and he's upset,
Sure.
but I'm also like, dude, get over it.
Yeah.
Some balls and move on, okay? And then he's like, then he starts throwing a hissy fit. What are they gonna do without me? I'm gonna leave them. They're not gonna be able to finish this movie without me. Mm. Well, you're not gonna be able to breathe anymore because Pearl's
That's
gonna
true.
kill your ass. So
Yes.
they
Well,
kind of took that option from you.
yeah, well, first
Hmm.
she attempts to seduce him, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so he
Pearl is on a mission.
Pearl is just like she gone. Um, she has some severe problems. I honestly think by that point she's just a full-blown sociopath.
Mm.
Um, so like I said, RJ leaves throwing a hissy fit, not waking anybody up. And so he goes to get in the van and he notices he turns it on, the lights come on, or the headlights, whatever, and Pearl's standing there.
Good
And at
old
first
Pearl.
I was like, oh, baby, you should be in bed. It's late. So he
Run
gets out of
her
the car.
over.
No. I mean, he should have, but I would like to hope and think I wouldn't have an 80-year-old woman stabbing me in the goddamn neck 50 times, you know?
True. True.
So he gets
You
out of
would
the car.
think.
He gets out of the car to check on her, and she tries to seduce him, and
Yeah.
he was very nice about it. He was like, whoa, like, what are you doing there? Let's get you inside. It's cold. Like, I'm
Come
sure your
on, it's
husband's
time for your
worried.
bed.
Yeah. And that's when she takes like a knife of sorts. I can't remember what it was, but I just know that like she stabbed him in the neck.
It was a
And
great scene, by the way.
it was, but I was like, God damn, like this 80-year-old woman ain't she old and she's just like I'm like, my God. So
Yeah, she pretty much
cut his
I
head off.
think, yeah, it just keeps stabbing him in the neck until his head is literally off.
Oh, it's terrible.
And I thought I don't know if I mean I expected something to happen, but I didn't
Mhm.
expect that to happen.
Right.
I was like, wow,
And
kind of
I
crazy.
also I recognized him as well because he was in the 2013 remake of Evil Dead.
OMG, you're right. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I noticed that the second time around I watched it.
I see it all now.
Yeah, right. And I loved that 2013 remake. Again, for
I
a
did
separate
too.
episode.
Separate episode for
Yeah.
sure, but yeah.
It was definitely really good. But to move forward, from here, that's when like it becomes pure chaos. Like we all thought like, oh, they're gonna just go on a farm and film a movie and everything's gonna be great and grand. No, these bitches are crazy. So Lorraine wakes up. She doesn't feel RJ next to her. So then Lorraine gets up, gets Wayne, and then
Mhm.
they go out and they start looking for him.
Mm.
And Howard comes outside hearing her like yelling for him. And she noticed the van. But Howard comes outside and he's like, hey, like, what are you doing out here? And she's like, oh, like, I'm looking for my boyfriend. And he's like, okay, well, like, I'll help you. So like she comes inside, he grabs
And
a
I think he
lantern.
says that Pearl went missing
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's right. He's like, yeah, I can't find my wife. And they basically kind of like team up to help each other. And so brain fart again. I need to stop having brain farts.
Yeah,
So
he invites her into the house and
yes.
he asks her to go get a flashlight in the basement. I believe it was
Yes.
asking for a
I would
flashlight.
not listen.
Never, never.
No. Your old ass can go downstairs and grab it for me. Okay?
Because
I don't
I
trust
have
you.
heart troubles. I can't go down the stairs.
Well, I'm sorry. Then I guess you're just gonna have to hold the flashlight because I would never trust that shit ever.
And then do you want to explain when she goes downstairs what she sees?
Yeah, so she she goes downstairs and then Howard locks her in the basement. And so she's trying to find a way out, and she did find the flashlight, and as she's trying to find a way out, she comes upon her now dead, obliterated ish. I don't even know how to describe his body. It was just like everything was, he was basically naked, whatever. And so then she screams, and that was like,
That
that
scream
was
was
a
great.
that was a great scream, but there was like something about it that was different. It was like almost like it came from her chest.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
she really screamed there. And so
Side note,
then
I this getting off track, but to be back in, I want to be in a horror film and scream like crazy. I love screaming. I love it in horror films. And I thought it was great. She had the teardrop come out when she screamed. It was
mhm,
awesome. Loved it. But anyway, that's besides the point. I just
no,
loved
big
that
mood.
scream.
Same girl, same girl, same. And so now she's trying to find a way out. Wayne's still trying to find RJ. And then here we go. We start seeing bodies drop. So Wayne's in the barn. First of all, with no damn shoes on.
I was just gonna say he steps on a nail.
Yeah. And then you're just gonna pull it like out like it's nothing. First of all, you need to go get a tetanus shot.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Second of all, you're gonna bleed out. Like, I mean, it's hard to say because it's like the first instinct is to just pull something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, bro, you're not gonna be able to walk because you're gonna pass out because there's gonna be blood spraying everywhere from your foot. You should have just stayed there and yelled for help. Then again, I don't know what difference it would have made because he dies anyways. So
That's true. They were
he
like,
sees like a shadow at these back doors or whatever, and then he looks into a hole, and then a freaking pitchfork goes straight through his freaking eyeball. And I was like, oh damn, they are not wasting time. Like, it went from like sexy and like great and funny. Now it's like death, 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 death.
yeah.
Like, it goes so fast after that. Yeah, so Wayne's dead, and then she goes into the guest house, Pearl, and then she gets undressed and lays in bed with Maxine.
Yeah.
And then she's touching her with blood because she's covered in, not like saturated, but covered in blood from killing RJ as well as Wayne. Also, side note, because this was so funny to me, she made sure he was dead by first poking Wayne, but then she throws hay on him.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because
She-
that's going to cover up the body.
She hated
Oh my
him.
God.
Yeah.
And so going back to what I was saying, she's like, she has blood on her hands. She's touching Max. I was like, no, 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 no. So then Maxine ends up waking up, and then she like sprints naked out of the guest house, and Bobby Lynn sees her. So then Bobby Lynn goes and checks on Maxine, and she's like, she was touching me and laying with me, man. And then they're trying to find where everybody's at because like a lot of people are gone right now. So Jackson, poor Jackson.
Poor Jackson. That's what I was gonna say. Poor Jackson.
He runs into Howard, and Jackson was also in the army, just like Howard was. I'm pretty positive it was.
Yeah.
And so he was like,
I believe Jackson was also naked at this point.
I think he only was without a shirt by the time they got outside.
Oh, okay. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So they're trying to look, I think they're trying to look for Wayne at this point now. And so then they're like by this lake that Maxine was swimming in earlier. Okay, now we lost Jackson. And
Kid Cudi, no.
Oh my gosh. Like, so like that's what I mean. It was like boom, 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 boom. Like everybody was just dying so fast after, they got RJ. So then after that, Bobby Lynn, wait, I don't know if this was before or after Jackson. I think it was after Jackson, but yeah, it was after. Bobby Lynn finds Pearl on the dock at the lake. And she's like, she wraps a blanket around her because she's naked. And she's like, come on, sweetheart. Like, well, let's get inside. It's cold out here.
She's very nice to her.
So very nice. And then Pearl smacks her and she's like, I don't like blondes. And then pushes her in the water. And the poor girl gets ripped apart by a goddamn crocodile.
Yeah, like I remember like when the alligator got her, it was like she was like rolling and flailing, and it was a very like chaotic scene.
It had her by her goddamn head.
Yeah. I
was like, this poor girl, like, none of them did anything like to you directly. You're just mad because nobody wanted to have sex with you. That's basically what it's boiling down to at this point.
Good point.
And I'm like, God damn, girl, are you that sex deprived that you got to start killing people? Like, what?
I think there's more people out there than you think.
And like, ultimately, like, once we get into Pearl too, like, you'll see, like, again, that's why I said she's a sociopath, because she's just like a killing machine.
Yeah.
It's just in her. But I was just like, at that point, I'm like, yeah, she's just killing everybody because she's mad nobody wants to have sex with her. Yeah. That's just kind of what it's giving. And so Bobby Lynn's gone. So now we're left with Maxine and Lorraine. Now Lorraine is stuck in the damn like cellar, basement, whichever you want to call it. So she's banging on like the cellar door, and Maxine hears her and she can't get the lock off. So she goes into the house. Oh, I also forgot a really good key important point. So she breaks a part of the door from the basement door, Lorraine, and she tries to unlock it. And then he like hits her hand with, I think, the butt of his shotgun and breaks her hand. And I was like, oh, hell no. I know that hurt.
Have you ever broken a bone?
Thank God, no.
Okay, so I broke a bone, and it wasn't my hand, it was my collarbone. But every time, yeah, that's a story for another time too. But every time, like in a movie, when someone's like bone breaks, it's like I feel it. I'm like, oh, I know what that was like. But
yeah, because and I agree. It like, you almost feel that it's weird. You feel the pain that they're feeling, and it's fake, but it's so realistic nowadays, more than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And even in the 80s, they did pretty great with it, considering it was the 80s, but like now it's like extremely well done. So I felt it too, but like I said, I hope I never experience a broken bone. But hey, I mean, I've torn my ACL and dislocated my kneecap.
That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, that, and it also hurts like a bitch. But, so I don't recommend. He breaks her hand, and then Maxine hears her banging on the cellar door. So Maxine goes to help her, can't get the cellar door open. So she gets the basement door unlocked, and then she's trying to help Lorraine, but she's just not listening. I'm like, listen, if Lorraine would have listened to Maxine, all would have been fine. Like, they would have both lived. No, she's like, I hate you, I'm leaving. She sprints outside, and Howard, after, might I add, they banged in the guest house.
Yeah.
Not a scene I needed to see, but I digress.
Yeah, we could have cut that one out.
We definitely could have cut that whole, like, at least majority of that scene out.
I said.
I was like, my Lord, why? Also, might I add, I watched this with my parents.
Same.
So I was just sitting there like laughing my ass off as my dad's like, I don't know if I can watch this with you. I'm 23, we're grown ass adults. Chill out, bro. But it was still funny. So yeah, he shoots her. as she's like running out the door. So all you see is her just like fly in the air and fly back.
Mhm.
I was like, oh damn. So she's dead. And
Real
now
dead. Real dead.
like dead. There's no coming back from that. So so she Maxine comes out. She has goodness, what is Wayne's pistol or gun, whatever kind of gun it is. And she's just like, pretty much like, fuck you guys, like, what is wrong with you? And then because Howard had sex with Pearl, he starts having a goddamn heart attack and dies right on the floor. I was just like, oh my gosh. Now Pearl's pissed because she lost her man and everybody else is dead, blah, 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 blah. And so Maxine, when we talk about Pearl, we'll get more in depth with this, but Pearl always wanted to be a dancer. She wanted to be famous, just like Maxine's becoming in the industry that she's working in. But mainly she wanted to be a dancer and travel and get out of the house she was living in. And she never got to live that dream. And she sees that in Maxine, and that also enrages her. But Maxine's like, like, I'm a fucking star and
Yeah.
everybody's gonna know my name. And it's funny because also periodically on the TV, we see this priest pop up.
Yes. Yeah.
And she repeats, I think she says, like, I will not accept a life I do not deserve. Yeah, that's what it is. And
Which is
that
very
is
deep.
her daddy. That priest is Maxine's dad.
Yes. Yeah.
And like right after Pearl gets killed, you see that right before the end credits, him talking about Maxine, his daughter, and
Yeah.
how she's going out and sinning and blah, 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 blah. Be quiet, Dad. She left because she doesn't like you because of that. Period. Let her live her life. But
Period.
yeah, so, Maxine leaves and gets out of there because she's a bad bitch. And we
She
love
is.
Mia Goth.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah. And it's so what is, because you picked this movie, what did you love most about this one? What was there anything you would have changed? What do you think?
I honestly, thinking right now, I really don't think I would have changed anything about the movie. I think everything that was in it was important to what the story is.
Yeah.
So, well aware, when you think of X2, just in general, automatically people are like, okay, that kind of leads into something that could be related to porn.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm very particular about nudity and sex in movies.
Same.
This, it made sense because
Yeah.
that's what the story is heavily about.
I agree.
So it didn't bother me. It never really bothers me, but I also feel like it's important is it going to make sense to the story? Is it going to push or drive the story for the characters? In this instance, yes, because that's what the movie's majority of it is about.
I agree. Yeah, because that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. I feel like I feel like that some filmmakers do this with like gore and stuff too. They'll just try to put as much as they can to shock the audience to try to, and sometimes I think it loses the film itself, whether it's nudity, gore, even swearing. I've seen films where like every other word is the swear word, and it's like, okay, we get it, your movie is rated R, but I think that this film, like the nudity that it had, it was needed or at least made sense. The gore I thought was well done, not overdone, anything like that. And so because I was really skeptical about this movie and I ended up really enjoying it.
Well, and see, another thing too that I want to add is it also had that like on the edge of your seat, like not jump scare per se, but it was creepy too because of like how Pearl was acting before everyone really like all the bodies started to drop.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so I feel like it had a perfect mix. It wasn't too much of this or too much of that or too little of this or too. I think it had a beautiful balance when it came to that. And
Hmm.
I just really, really enjoyed this movie. Um, One of my top favorites right now still.
Love that.
And yeah, so I also just really love Mia Goth. I think she's
Yeah.
incredible.
Great
But
actress.
Ty West directing, amazing.
Hmm.
So good, so good. And the writing is just I just loved everything about this project. The shots, the writing, the story, the actors. Like I just feel like the casting was also very well done.
I
And
agree.
you know, it had its comedic points, it had its creepy, had its I didn't really need to see that.
Yeah.
All those kind of moments that I feel like everybody feels watching horror movies or um if anybody wants to put this in a different category, I would say this is horror. But um
Yeah, I think so
so
too. I think
yeah,
horror is so broad,
it
and
is.
I
It has a lot
think,
of branches.
yeah, which is great. I love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, so I would rate X at a I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I really freaking loved this movie. Um, I give it a solid 10 out of 10 because I don't know. I feel like there were so many things well done in this movie. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that completely and I respect that, but I think it was just beautifully done.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
that's
I'd
all.
say if you're not into like movies with nudity, I mean the gore wasn't too much, but I'd say,
Mm-mm.
maybe this one isn't for you, but it was, especially if you're like into cinematography and stuff like that, the location setting is beautiful.
Yep.
Everything's just really well done. But in which we're going to talk about next is Pearl, and I still haven't decided which one I like better.
I completely understand that because then we watch Pearl and it's set back in like the early 1900s. So it's so aesthetically pleasing
Hmm.
and cuz I think it was like in the 70s for X, I'm pretty positive. So that time jump because it's introducing Pearl
Who
um
is played by Mia Goth as
Goth.
well.
Mhm. And well, first of all, before we get into Pearl, what do you rate X as?
This is hard for me because, and this is why it's hard because I still haven't decided which one I like better. And I know
Well,
that
and
doesn't matter on,
I just mean like just a regular rating, if like the movie by itself. Because at the end we can definitely
yeah,
talk slightly about which one we prefer over the other.
I'd say maybe, ugh, what did I give Host? Because I was like,
I
I
want
want to
to
give it,
I think you gave it like
I was like a 9.5, right?
yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, maybe a 7.5 or 8 out of
Okay.
10. And it's not even because they're, I don't know. I liked it a lot. I don't know if it was like my favorite all-time favorite, but I definitely liked it and would highly recommend it for people to watch.
Yeah. X got the 10 out of 10 for me.
I love that.
But on to Pearl.
On to Pearl. So, this one is I believe it was really early, like even before like 1920s or something.
Hmm.
And during the influenza pandemic,
The
I believe.
Spanish flu, yep.
And so which was interesting, but I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but I remember I was watching the film and like it didn't dawn on me at first. And I saw someone wearing a mask and I was like, oh my gosh, that person forgot to take their mask off. And then I was like, wait, they're supposed to be during like a pandemic too.
Yeah, so it takes place during the Spanish influenza. Howard is already married to Pearl, but he's in war. Um, so as of right now, we get introduced to Pearl, who is, at home, very young with her parents. Her dad got sick. And so he is completely unable to take care of himself.
Yeah, he's
So it's
paralyzed.
basically, yeah, it's basically up to her mother, who is a German farmer, and Pearl herself to provide and take care of the house and her father.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of life she wants to live. She wants to be a dancer and follow her dreams and get out of the farm. And her mother is very, very hard on Pearl.
Hmm.
All Pearl wants to do is just really go after her dreams. And her mother, on the other hand, is like, no, you need to stay on the farm and take care of your dad, take care of the animals, take care of whatever needs done around here. That is never going to happen for you, basically. She's very unsupportive of her daughter, and just very rude to her.
Yes,
And it
very.
broke my heart.
Hmm.
Not, and I'm definitely not trying to give the leeway to an excuse for what she chooses to do. Um, but that's definitely not going to help
Hmm.
keep somebody sane
Yeah.
or kind-hearted. So
Hmm.
and parents, support your kids, please. Okay, don't shun them away or disown them for what they want to do with their life or who they choose to be.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think that's,
say,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 you're totally good. Go ahead.
I feel like a lot of people, maybe not to the extent that, Pearl goes, but can relate with their parents not accepting them for something or just having bigger dreams and um the life they have isn't what they wanted. I think a lot of people can honestly relate to that. So,
Absolutely.
I think that that started off with a good story because you have some feeling for Pearl where kind of in X, like she's an old lady and you kind of feel bad for her, but you're also like, she's
This
nuts.
bitch crazy.
Yeah. There wasn't like
um,
too much sympathy for her there.
Not an ex. I feel like I had more sympathy for her character in Pearl.
Yeah.
Um, because you saw the way she was being treated by her mother.
Hmm.
And again, in no way am I giving an excuse to be a sociopath, but that that can definitely affect somebody's psyche.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she really wants to become I think they called it a chorus girl, I think.
Something along
And
those lines, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, like her mom is just um disapproves of that,
hmm
but and so you kind of feel this sympathy for Pearl, but then you also see she starts showing some of her crazy killing animals and kind of being physically
Oh my gosh, I'll never
abusive.
forget. Well, this is not funny. I just have a dark humored brain, so bear with me, guys. Um, but yeah, she like starts performing in front of the animals in the barn, and a goose comes in and she kills it with a pitchfork. And then she takes it out to the lake, and she basically, that alligator, crocodile, whichever breed, if that's
I
the right word,
think it's an
it is.
alligator, I think.
But that's a big alligator. I want to say that's a crocodile.
Okay, I could be wrong.
Um, we're gonna have to look that up to see like what the difference is, so we can kind of be like, okay, no, that's actually what it is. Um, but she goes and feeds it to the goddamn crocodile alligator.
I wasn't a fan of that part.
I was like,
I'm a big animal lover.
yeah, me too. I was like, Pearl, are you okay?
So that's kind of
I
where
understand mom hurt you, but are you okay?
I feel like that was unfortunately clever for the writing, because it was like,
Mhm.
okay, we'll give you some sympathy for her, but don't have too much sympathy for her because she's still
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like they tried to make her more relatable and and for the viewers to understand. And that's why, like I keep emphasizing, I'm not giving her excuses, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And also it also can go a little bit into, mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't think all the dots were clicking for her up here.
Yeah.
Um, because again, I feel like there has to be something more um besides your mom treating you poorly for you to go do what she does. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? I feel like there's definitely something more beyond that. Um Something's just not completely clicking in her and Pearl's mind.
Yeah.
Um that make her normal, because again, she didn't have a perfect life and it was a lot on her, and I would be angry too, but to do what she does in both of these movies, no. That's a no from me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we get that introduction of her family and her and kind of where she's at. And her mother sends her into town to go get more medicine, which is
Mm-hmm.
liquid morphine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that shit's crazy. Um, but my dad and mom kind of explained it to me because my mom's a nurse, but I can't remember. So I'd have to look into it again. But they actually like banned that not too long ago, a few years ago, because it's not,
Yikes.
yeah, it's a lot. I'd have to look into it again, but I just know that liquid morphine is not good. But so she goes and gets the liquid morphine for him, and then she goes to see a movie, or as she calls it, the pictures. Um, and so she had to wear a mask because it's during the Spanish influenza. And she hears people coughing in the theater, and she takes a whole ass gulp of that liquid morphine to, like, I guess in her mind, make sure she doesn't get sick. But I just thought it was funny because she took it back like it was a shot, and I was like, all right, girl, do you. So she sees this one movie, and then she's looking at the program that she got when she was in there, and we get introduced to the character of the projectionist,
Yes.
um, who was also working in the army for some time, and he's travels a lot. And he ended up where he's at in the town where Pearl is from, and he shows the movies. And so he invites her to come in the backstage to watch from there. She's like, "Oh, well, I better get going. My mom is probably waiting for me."
My
And
mama
or
sent me to go get my medicine
in.
for my daddy.
And I think she already did right off the bat mention that, like, hey, yeah, my daddy's sick. I'm primary caretaker basically. But I want to be a dancer. I want to be in the pictures. Um, so she says that she'll well, actually, she doesn't say this to him, but you can tell that she would come back to
Yeah.
see more movies backstage with him. Um, Also need to emphasize again that she is already married to Howard, but Howard
Yes.
is away, just so y'all know, because it comes in handy.
It does.
Um,
Yeah.
so she gets back home.
Well, I think this also afterwards is
Oh
the
yeah.
bake scene.
Yeah, she starts dancing
Thanks.
with a scarecrow. That's right. And
I wasn't sure if you were just gliding past it or
no, I like kind of I forgot for a second, genuinely. Yeah, so she's riding home, and she loses a piece of the film that the projectionist gave her. So she's trying to go through the cornfield as if she's going to find that little goddamn piece of film that's like this friggin' big, not even like that big.
Yeah.
And so she sees the scarecrow and she like climbs up. She's like, may I have this dance? And then pulls him down. She starts dancing with him. And then she starts like fantasizing basically of seeing the projectionist, because the projectionist is a very handsome fellow.
He is a very handsome fellow.
And so she kind of starts dry humping the scarecrow.
Yeah.
And she sees the projectionist's face, and then she's like, I think she punches it or something a couple times. She's like, I'm married. She starts going at it again. She's like making out with it and shit. That was like,
This
Pearl,
poor scarecrow.
Pearl, are you okay?
That was a wild scene.
It was. And again, another reason why I give her credit, because I was like, this is just so like random. But I think she did well with the scene, and she really went for it because she was making out with that scarecrow. I was like, girl, you really going for it. And I love this for her. I love it. And so after that, she leaves, she gets back to the house. She had the like top hat from the scarecrow. And her mom's like, why have you been gone so long? Where have you been? And she's like, well, it's a long ride into town, mama. And then she's like, well, where'd you get that hat? And she goes, oh, I found it on the side of the road. And she's like,
I was
well,
like, oh
leave
my
it.
gosh, that could have germs.
Yeah, she was like, leave it outside. And go clean up. Don't bring any germs inside, blah blah blah. And so she goes inside, she gets cleaned up, washes her hair, blah 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 blah. She's telling her dad, like, I saw the pictures today. I really want to go and do this, and blah 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 blah. Then she starts trying to choke her dad. I was like,
I mean, we've
she's
all
like,
been there, right?
she pinches, bruh. She pinches him to see if he'll have any reaction, because he's like completely handicapped. Like, he doesn't speak, he doesn't move, like everything has to be done for him. And she's like, are you still in there? And then she like, I think she starts like touching his nose at first, and then she just like starts grabbing and squeezing his neck. And I was like, girl, no, stop. After that, she goes down to dinner. She starts to eat. Her mom's like, well, I noticed some money missing. She went to go see the pictures, but she didn't want to tell her that. She felt like she would be more angry. So she was like, oh, well, I got some hard candy for the ride home. And yeah, mama didn't like that. And
Mama didn't
so
like that.
she pulls her food away from her, and she's like, well, then you've had enough. And
Which I thought was so crazy.
me too. I was like, Mom, chill.
Yeah.
But then her mom went into like the spiel of like, we work really hard for what we have. We don't have a lot of money because it's just me and you providing. It's harder for us to, maintain a lot of stuff. Totally understandable.
Yeah.
But then you're not going to let your daughter eat dinner because she had a couple pieces of candy?
Yeah. It's that part I was like, man, that
Like,
if you didn't
what?
if you had a hatred for Ruth, I think her name was Ruth the mom, before, you really did now.
Yeah. So then, oh, and actually have to backtrack a smidge again, because we also get introduced to Howard's sister, who is Pearl's sister-in-law.
Mitzi.
Yes.
Mitzi.
Very interesting name.
I always want to say Misty, but it's Mitzi.
Mitzi, yeah. And so her mother and her bring a pig over, because, kind of like how when we went through a pandemic, everybody stayed home. They didn't really go out. They were scared to go out. Everybody wore masks, yada, yada, yada. And so Pearl's mother is like basically Like, I'm not touching that. I'm not taking that, blah, 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 blah. And then Howard's mom is like, it's just a damn pig. Like, I'm just trying to be nice. Take the food. Wouldn't take the goddamn food.
Pig.
And so Mitzi tells Pearl that there's going to be a dance audition for a choir group of, and I don't even want to call it a choir group. I feel like there's another word that they said, or there is another word for it, because when I think of choir, I think of singing. So like a dance line, basically, to travel to 7 cities before the holidays or by the holidays, something like that, at the church at 11 o'clock on Saturday. So she said she'll meet her there. They're going to go, blah, blah, blah. That is when, again, we go into the dinner scene. They get into a full blown argument and Pearl's mom catches on fire.
That's pretty accurate.
And, goddamn. Then you have her poor father sitting there, like, he can't speak, he can't move. And he's just like, I think his daughter's nuts right now.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. So,
like,
yeah.
Sorry, I had to see that, Daddy.
Literally. So she catches on fire, burns pretty bad, and she just kind of throws her down in the basement.
Yeah, she well,
I hate to laugh, it's just our humor, but she literally throws her down the stairs.
Yeah, and she's not quite dead.
No. Girl's really still fighting for her life. So she leaves.
Rusted, she goes out. Busted, still fighting for her life.
Literally. But yeah, so she leaves her dad just sitting at the dinner table. After
witnessing all that.
Yeah, she leaves her mother locked up in the basement, and then she goes to see the projectionist, who, here's where X kind of also really fits in well to the prequel, because he shows her a porno from Europe. I think it was from France. And so they talk about like planning to go to Paris together. I'm pretty positive, or just Europe in general. Meanwhile, like I have said, she's married to Howard. So how do you think that's going to work out? It's not going to. So, after a while, she leaves. And she goes back to the house. She sees that her mother got to the top of the goddamn stairs, kicks her back down the stairs, takes her dad. Oh no. Didn't she stay with the projectionist that night?
Yeah. I think she slept with him. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adds to a lot more, doesn't it, friends? So yeah, then she comes home the next morning. I'm sorry. And she sees her mother was trying to get back up the stairs, kicks her back down. And then she gets her dad cleaned up. Then she invites the projectionist in, and he meets her dad. And then they go upstairs and start hooking up.
Yes.
And they hear a bang from the basement. And of course, we as the audience know that that is her mother downstairs trying to get out something. And
he's like, what's that
noise? And she's like, oh, it's just our dog. And so then they go to the barn, and she introduces him to the pets. And this is also, might I add, the morning of the audition. So she was supposed to be practicing, but she's so in La La Land right now with the projectionist. I don't think she has a concept of time, or it was just extremely early still. But I was like, the sun's bright. I would have thought it was noon. So then he's pretty much just like, so what's your dog's name?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, we don't have a dog.
We don't have a dog.
You just said 5 minutes ago and you forgot that you said that, Pearl? Come on, girl. Come on, girl.
And you can tell he's like catching on to certain things. Like,
yeah.
even when he first walked into the house, he was like looking and noticing things. And
Right, right. And I mean, it is a lot. It definitely is a lot. Even if he, I mean, and she told him like, like my dad's sick and blah blah
Mhm,
blah. But then he's also like, okay, well, where's your mom? You lied about the dog in your basement. This is a little sketchy.
mhm.
So he's like, well, you better get to practicing. I gotta head back so I can, screen a movie. And she's like, did I do something wrong? And he's like, no. And she's like, then she starts freaking out. She's like, well, what did I do wrong? And he's like, nothing. And he's like, no, like, why are you mad at me? I don't understand. All that stuff. Love that scene. And so he's like, Pearl, you're scaring me. Like, you need to chill. So he goes to leave. He ain't leaving that farm.
Nope.
Nope. So she takes a pitchfork and she stabs him. And she starts chasing the car. And she's like, oh God, how did she say it? She started screaming. She screamed something at him again. She was like, you're not going to stop me. Not you, not mama, nobody. Or Howard or something like that too. Like she just feels she has so much rage
Yeah.
in herself.
Yeah.
And that's why I call her a sociopath. This girl's just angry and she is just like, without a second thought, she's just killing people.
I was surprised that I thought his character was going to make it farther into the film, to be
See,
honest.
I agree. I would have thought that he maybe would have made it to the end
Yeah. Yeah.
and like right before Howard got home, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Something like that.
or it would have just been a very interesting run-in between the two of them. Well, three of them.
Feel like,
Um,
who are you?
oh well, I'm taking her to Europe. So yeah, I mean, ultimately though, again, Pearl is just unwell. So I'm not shocked that the projectionist died, but I do agree and understand what you're saying at the same time. So she just washes up like nothing happened, cleans her dad up, then kills her dad before going to the audition. So then she goes to the audition and she sees Mitzi and she's very confident, very determined. She's
Yeah.
just sitting there like deadpanned and she's just like, it's going to be me. This is, it has to be me. And Mitzi's like, well, I don't think you meant to say that out loud. No, she did. So unfortunately, and sadly enough, she does not get it. But one thing that I still question, did Mitzi get it?
I think so. Yeah.
See, and I thought so too, but when I watched it again recently, so okay, well, here, let me actually explain a little bit more into this before telling this part too. So Pearl's crying. She's extremely upset she didn't get it. This was like the be all end all for her. Mitzi gets her home and Pearl's a mess. And, then Mitzi's like, well, why don't you talk to me as if it's Howard so you can like tell me how you feel and blah, 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 blah. And she does this incredible like 5-minute monologue. I
Yep.
loved it so much. Oh,
Mhm.
she's just amazing. But yeah, as Mitzi's leaving, she's like, you got the part. And to me, like at first I was like, oh, she's lying she's just trying to say like, no, I didn't get it. When she did, but then I watched it again and I was like, wait a minute. Did she really not get it? And then she just said that she got it because Pearl kept saying like, no, you got it. Stop lying to me. So
Oh,
was she
that's an
going,
interesting take about it.
Yeah, so I it made me wonder if she really got it or if she just said it so Pearl wouldn't get angry.
Hmm.
Pearl still gets angry, but
But regardless.
so that's what, when I watched it a second time around, that's what I was thinking. So, I mean, if whenever you have a chance, definitely watch it again and see if you kind of see what I'm saying, or any of the viewers that are, listening in on this episode, let me know what you thought originally. And then if you go and watch it again or have watched it again, have you ever thought that way as well? Because I was like, I'm very, I'm questioning it now,
Mm.
you know? Um, but Mitzi goes to leave. Pearl follows her, takes the axe out of the big chunk of wood that they were cutting wood on, and she starts chasing her. Of course, she trips.
Yep, I was gonna say, of course.
And then she kills her and cuts her body up and feeds it to the
Yeah.
alligator.
That
And
was a great
also,
scene too.
that was a very great scene as well. I don't
Very
know how
realistic.
I still don't know how Howard feels to this day. I mean, who's gonna know anyways, unless Pearl tells him
You
that
know,
she killed her, because the alligator took the evidence. But she also drove the projectionist in his car into the lake, and the alligator also got the projectionist. That alligator just cleans up her messes.
that alligator eats well.
Also, that too.
A
My
little too
goodness.
well.
A little too well. Too often.
Too,
Um,
yeah.
too often. Um, but yeah, so then after all of that, um she grabs her mother from the basement, who has finally died. um
Took a while.
it
Poor
took a
lady.
long while, like she really was fighting for her life, um which who wouldn't, but you know what I mean. I was just like, damn, she's still alive. But then she like wraps her arms, Pearl wraps her mother's arms around her, and then you see a moment where um her mother's singing to her, but like you see, the well version of her, and she's just, singing to her, and she's like, I love you. And then she's like, I love you too. And, I feel like Pearl just wanted to have that kind of relationship with her mother, but that's not how
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
So again, that's where you kind of feel bad for Pearl again, even though she's a sociopath. And yeah, so then she brings her dead mother upstairs. She brings her dead father into the kitchen. She brings the pig with maggots all over it, sets the table for dinner, and all is good in Pearl's world. Then Howard comes home.
Poor Howard.
Yeah, Howard's just like,
Coming back from war.
what the fuck? And what was it? Oh gosh. Oh goodness. Brain. Oh yeah. She's like, Howard, I'm so happy you're home. Then for 2 minutes straight, as the end credits are rolling, all I see is Mia Goth standing there in front of the camera, smiling and not blinking, and she's crying. And I was like, what? I was like, this poor girl's in pain. I see it in her eyes. Let her blink. Please, God, let her blink.
It
No.
was great. She did amazing.
She really did. She really did. I loved Pearl. I loved it. I'm so excited for Maxine because they officially started filming it in California. And the cast, stellar.
I was gonna say, do they have a date for it to be released yet?
I mean, depending on how quick, because I mean, X and Pearl had really fast turnarounds. They both
Yeah.
came out in the same year. Um, so I would have to assume at latest it's going to be out next year.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, because they are filming in LA right now, but like I said, have you seen the cast that was announced so far?
I'm not sure who all has been announced.
Let me look it up again, but I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, like stellar talent. Maxine.
With 3 X's.
Yes, ma'am. I only put 2 for some reason. Okay. Lily Collins, Kevin Bacon,
Oh, I did hear about, yeah.
Halsey. Like, I mean, this is who they have announced right now.
Okay.
Yeah, like, damn. So I'm really excited to see where they take that because I mean, this is right after everything happened at the farm.
Yeah.
That was in Texas. She's in California now. So I'm very intrigued to see where they take this one from, after X,
Yeah.
you know? So very, very happy and excited about that.
So what are your feelings about Pearl? Did you love it as much as X or
Yeah, I mean, I really, really enjoyed the movie. I think the biggest thing that stuck out for me was her very long, like 5-minute monologue. I loved that part of the movie. Um, and it was also very like, again, beautifully shot, and it was very colorful, and you just see this town, and it's like a different era and time, uh, and it just gives that backstory of Pearl. What I do wish was to see just a little bit more of how Howard and her proceeded in their relationship after he came home.
so originally I knew that Howard was off off to war, but I thought that this is why I was surprised that the projectionist was killed so early. I thought that somehow in the end he was gonna like become the new Howard and just like go by Howard. That was like my and
Hmm.
then my theory at the time because I was like to me it kind of seemed like they like kind of wrote this guy the real Howard off and but I think it kind of worked out because then he just randomly popped back up into all this mess. So
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, so I would have liked to see a little bit more of Pearl and Howard after, like I said, he came home from war.
mhm,
Especially like you can tell like bro's not okay because first of all, he just got home from war, but also then he just walked into this literal nightmare. Um, and so yeah, it's just it's a lot. It's a
yeah.
lot. But I really definitely enjoyed the film. I would personally rate this one like an 8 out of 10. Um, myself.
And I think maybe and I could be wrong, but how Howard was kind of in X upset that they were filming a porn film. I think maybe in his mind, like from the first one, maybe he thinks that the downfall of Pearl was getting involved with this projectionist and him showing her the pornographic and maybe thinking that somehow that had a lot to do with it too in her dreams. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that's just a thought to what I had, but I agree. I think it would have been cool to kind of see more um about how Howard handled things.
Mm-hmm.
And after us talking about it and you going through it all again, I think I prefer X over Pearl.
Yeah.
I think. Because for a while, because even when you said you wanted to do these films, I was like, I was happy about it because I like them both. And I was like, "Ah, I don't even know which one I like better."
Right.
And I think I prefer X,
Yeah.
but I loved Pearl. I think it was great. Loved the outfits, the design, everything. So I might be like a 6 out of 10 for me. I don't know. That feels kind of low though.
That's why I
So
gave it an 8 because like I said, I still really enjoyed it. And there was only like that was the only really big thing that I would change or add to it. I thought the rest of it was very well done. Again, very nicely shot. Loved the story. It really showed Pearl and who she was, and also what triggers her. But like I
Yes.
said, I also think it does boil down to like her mental health as well. I don't think everything's great up here for her. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
said, there's something more to her than just the way her mother treats her.
Yeah.
There's just no way. So um yeah, I really enjoyed the prequel, and I can't wait to see the sequel to X now. And yeah, I loved both movies. 10 out of 10 for X, 8 out of 10 for Pearl.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm glad you picked these ones because I don't think it they would have been two films that I would have thought to have talked about, but I'm glad you picked these ones.
Yes, absolutely. Another movie that I really want to see in Mia's is Infinity Pool, because I also
Oh yeah, yeah.
love Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes.
So, and I saw the previews and I was like, okay,
Good
I'm
for her.
interested.
She's doing a lot of really cool things and I'm
Did you
happy
hear
for
that
her.
she's gonna be in Blade?
No, uh-uh.
Okay, so they're
Oh
I
wait, yes I did. I saw
they're filming it here.
oh, are they?
Yes, they're filming it in Georgia. So I'm like, where's the casting call? I'm because originally, because it's funny, because I applied to work on it. I think it was last year, and it was during like the summer because they were going to film it in Ohio. I can't remember if the director quit or got fired, but
Oh.
they finally got like everything rolling again, and they are filming it here. I make fun of myself because I am a fangirl at heart, but when it really comes down to being on set with people, nobody ever has to worry about that with me because it's we're professionals and we have a job to do, and that's
I I
how it
can
is.
attest to that. I worked with Bryn on a set. She's very professional.
Thank you, darling. Um, but yeah, so when I found that out, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So yeah, to be continued. I'm definitely gonna try to see if there's any casting for it. I'm sure there will be, at least definitely for background, but I'm very, very excited to see her step into the Marvel universe now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really excited. So it'll
It
be cool.
was Florence and now her and
I love
it's
Florence Pugh so much.
same.
She's another one. She's so amazing.
We're
There's so many people
fangirling
I
a
want to
little
work
too
with.
hard.
You and I?
Yeah.
It's okay. This is the place to do it. This is the place to do it. But yeah, there's so many freaking people I'd love to work with, and work that I admire. So
Same.
yeah, yeah. But what are your final ratings on X and Pearl? Just because I can't remember off
What
the top
did
of
I
my head.
say? Okay, I'll stick with my 6 for Pearl and 7.5 for X.
Gotcha.
But you know what? I always watch movies again and again.
Mhm.
So like there's been movies that I've watched and I absolutely hated, but then I'll watch them again and I love them and I fall in love with them. So I'll have to watch it again because I always find new things in movies when I watch them a second time.
Absolutely.
And plus reading about it, reading about the cast, I feel like I gain like a more because I don't like to read before because I don't want any spoilers.
Yeah.
So then after I watch it, then I read up on everything. And then when I watch it a second time, I feel like I have more of like an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
So definitely gonna be watching those again, especially now that we talked about it. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I love both of the films. So, and I'm the same way. I can rewatch stuff over and over a lot of the times, especially if I really end up connecting to the material in some way, or I just really enjoyed the movie and the acting and all that stuff. And, as an actor too, I study a lot more in movies. So, like, I watch movies completely different from like my family now. They're just
mhm,
sitting there enjoying it, where I'm just like, literally watching every little movement that an
mhm.
actor is doing, because that's part of our job. That's how we learn. And that's another way of us learning, I should say. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like watching the films and watching how the actors perform is sometimes better for me than like taking a class sometimes. And
Interesting.
because it's just like I feel like I'm like, okay, they blinked there. Was there a reason they blinked there? And you can kind of like watch it and like kind of like
Right.
visual learning. I don't know. So I feel like because not to get off on another thing, but I have always been very used to doing crew work. So when I would watch a film, I was always like, not that I wasn't focused on the actors and actresses because I had always wanted to do that, but
Hmm.
I was always focused on the design and the way the cameras moved and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
now I feel like as I kind of want to get more into acting, I'm watching little details of like, oh, they blinked there. Oh, they smiled there. Why did they do that? You know?
Right, right. Well, and just to add one more little thing too, I mean, when you're working as a crew member, even on set too, a lot of times, depending on where you're placed as well, it's hard to really be able to watch the actors work because you're making sure your job is getting done.
Yeah.
So, like me with being an assistant director, it was easy for me to do that because I have to stay by Adam and Tony and Roman the whole time with the
Mm-hmm.
cameras and stuff. And then I have my walkie if I have to walk away and go do something for like talent or go pick up something, go whatever it is. So I definitely understand what you mean there
Yeah.
for sure.
Which is
But
something in another episode we'll have to talk about more.
yeah,
And because I think we talked about this last time too, we have a lot of news coming up with the movie that we're both on together,
yes.
Macabre Mountain.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to get a little more into that.
Uh-huh.
Um,
We're
so
trying
I'm
to get
excited
some
for it.
guests and stuff together that we worked with, crew and cast. So stay tuned, y'all. We're pumped. It's coming out this fall. So
Yeah. And yeah, and I'm super excited to have crew and cast for a film because without the crew, there's no film. Without the
right.
cast, there's no
No
film. So
film. Yeah.
everybody is like equally important.
Yep.
So, and everybody has such unique jobs. And so it's going to be great. And I'm excited for everybody to learn about everybody and learn more about the film in general and just everybody.
Me too. Me too. Ah, well, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Steel City Screams. We appreciate your love and support as always. Go ahead, like, comment, and share on these episodes. Please keep them boosting. We appreciate you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Bye bye. Bye bye now.
Bye bye now.